What kind of stupid girl can't even take a simple drink order? Khalil al-Rashid slams his water glass down, ice cubes scattering across the white tablecloth. His voice booms through Meridian Restaurant's refined atmosphere, turning heads at nearby tables. Amara Williams stands perfectly still, water pitcher steady in her grip despite the public humiliation. Around them, Chicago's power elite pretend not to stare while secretly recording with their phones. "I asked for sparkling water 10 minutes ago," Khalil continues, his Lebanese accent thick with rage. Then he turns to his associates, switching to Arabic with a cruel smirk. This stupid black girl probably can't even read the menu. His business partners shift uncomfortably, glancing around the restaurant nervously. But Amara doesn't flinch. Instead, something deadly calm settles over her face, something that suggests this Arab CEO just signed his own professional death warrant. The word stupid echoes in both languages, but only one person at this table understands them both. Have you ever watched someone destroy their entire empire with pure arrogance? The silence that follows is deafening. Khalil's cruel laughter dies in his throat as Amara Williams straightens her shoulders. Every conversation in the restaurant seems to pause, as if the universe itself is holding its breath. Then she speaks. "Sir, I apologize if I seem stupid to you, but I'm confident I can understand the menu and your order perfectly." Her voice is calm, measured, but she's speaking in flawless Arabic. Khalil's coffee cup freezes halfway to his lips. His face drains of color as the words register. Perfect Lebanese dialect. No accent, no hesitation. "Would you prefer I continue in Lebanese, Arabic, Egyptian, or perhaps Moroccan?" Amara continues, switching effortlessly between dialects. "I noticed your accent suggests Lebanese heritage." The water glass slips from Khalil's fingers, crashing to the floor. Crystal shards scatter across Italian marble as his associates sit frozen, mouths agape. I didn't..." Khalil stammers in English, his confident demeanor crumbling like a house of cards. But Amara isn't finished. She leans slightly forward, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carries across the now silent restaurant. "And for future reference, calling someone stupid in Arabic doesn't make you clever. It just makes you predictable." A businessman at the next table drops his fork. Someone's phone clatters to the floor. The entire restaurant has become an audience to this impossible moment. Derek Morrison, the restaurant manager, appears as if summoned by the electric tension in the air. His eyes dart between Khalil's pale face and Amara's serene expression. "Is everything all right here?" Derek asks, though he can clearly sense the power dynamic has shifted entirely. Khalil attempts damage control, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't realize you spoke 7 languages fluently," Amara replies smoothly, switching back to English. 12 conversationally. Now, about that sparkling water? The Lebanese CEO who moments ago commanded the room now looks smaller, diminished. His associates avoid eye contact, suddenly fascinated by their napkins. Derek's eyebrows rise almost to his hairline. Something extraordinary just happened, and he's the only one who seems to understand its significance. Derek Morrison pulls Amara aside 30 minutes later, after Khalil's table has hastily departed with barely a word and an awkwardly small tip. The restaurant's lunch rush continues around them, but Derek's mind is racing. "How many languages do you actually speak?" he asks, genuinely curious. Amara wipes down her hands with a dish towel, considering her answer. "Fluently? 7? Conversationally? Maybe 12 on a good day." Derek blinks. 12 languages, and you're waiting tables." "Student loans don't pay themselves," she replies with a shrug that doesn't quite hide the pain behind her eyes. To prove her point, she demonstrates. A Russian businessman at table 6 is struggling with the English menu, gesturing helplessly at his colleagues. Amara approaches and switches to fluent Russian, explaining the daily specials with ease. The man's face lights up with relief and gratitude. "My grandmother always said languages are bridges," Amara explains when she returns. "You can cross into anyone's world if you know how to speak to their heart." Derek watches her in action throughout the afternoon. When a group of lost Japanese tourists wander in asking for directions, Amara gives them detailed guidance in perfect Japanese. They bow gratefully, taking selfies with her before leaving. An elderly Italian man dining alone looks homesick until Amara stops by his table. Within minutes, she's chatting with him about his hometown of Florence in rapid Italian. Tears glisten in his eyes as he describes the old country to someone who truly understands. "Where did you learn all this?" Derek asks during a quiet moment. Amara's smile turns wistful. PhD in Applied Linguistics from Northwestern. Dissertation on cross-cultural communication in business settings. Derek nearly chokes on his coffee. "You have a doctorate in linguistics. Turns out that doesn't guarantee you a job," she says, touching the name tag that simply reads Server #7. Especially when you graduate during an economic downturn and your field is competitive. Derek's mind starts connecting dots he never saw before. Morrison's restaurant group has been hemorrhaging money on failed international expansion attempts, cultural misunderstandings, lost contracts, expensive consultants who promise the world and deliver confusion. "We've been trying to expand internationally for 2 years, he says slowly. Hired 3 different consulting firms, spent nearly $500,000, and we're still getting nowhere because we can't navigate the cultural barriers." Amara nods knowingly. "Most consultants understand business or culture, rarely both, and almost never from the ground up." A light bulb goes off in Derek's head. He pulls out his phone and starts scrolling through social media. Already, videos of Amara's confrontation with Khalil are gaining traction. #Servant Genius is trending locally on TikTok. "The internet is going crazy about what happened earlier," he tells her, showing her the screen. "People are calling you a hidden genius and demanding to know your story." Amara glances at the phone, uncomfortable with the attention. "I just defended myself. Nothing special about that." "Nothing special?" Derek stares at her in disbelief. You just linguistically destroyed a Fortune 500 CEO in front of half of Chicago's business elite, in his own language, while maintaining perfect professional composure." As if on cue, his phone buzzes with a text from Regional Director Sarah Lane. "Need to talk about the viral video from your restaurant. Call me ASAP." Derek looks at Amara, then at his phone, then back at Amara. An idea is forming in his mind. An impossible, brilliant, potentially career-changing idea. "What if I told you there was another way?" he says carefully. "What if instead of waiting for the academic world to recognize your value, we created our own opportunity?" Before Amara can respond, Derek's phone rings. Sarah Lane's name flashes on the screen. He glances at Amara one more time, then answers with determination in his voice. "Sarah? Yes, I saw the video. Actually, I think this might be exactly what we've been looking for." That evening, as Amara walks through her small apartment, she passes the framed photo that started it all. 8-year-old Amara sits beside her grandmother in the Chicago Public Library, both heads bent over a French children's book. Grand-mère always spoke French Creole at home, Amara remembers, touching the glass gently. She'd traveled a lot for work, she said, always talking about diplomatic protocols and international meetings like they were normal dinner conversations. The memory floods back vividly. Young Amara finds a shoebox of old photographs hidden in her grandmother's closet. Formal pictures of an elegant woman shaking hands with world leaders, standing in front of United Nations flags, wearing diplomatic badges. When confronted, her grandmother had quickly put them away. "That was a long time ago, Cherie. A different life." But the seed was planted. Languages became Amara's superpower, her way of connecting with a world that often felt closed off to a black girl from Chicago's South Side. While other kids played video games, Amara haunted the library's international section. She taught herself Spanish from telenovelas, Japanese from anime, Arabic from cultural center classes. Each new language felt like discovering a secret door to someone else's soul. Her parents worked double shifts, her mother as a hospital aide, her father driving trucks to keep food on the table. Language schools were a luxury they couldn't afford, but determination was free. "You have a gift, baby," her mother would say, listening to Amara practice Mandarin with Chinese takeout delivery drivers. "Don't let anyone tell you differently." The full scholarship to Northwestern felt like vindication. Finally, academic validation for what she'd always known was special. She threw herself into her PhD program, writing her dissertation on cross-cultural communication in international business. But graduation coincided with economic collapse. Academic positions disappeared. University hiring froze. The girl who could speak to anyone found herself invisible to the very institutions that should have valued her gifts. Student loan payments started immediately. Pride kept her from asking family for help. They'd sacrificed enough already. So she took the only job she could find quickly, waiting tables at Meridian, serving people who would never suspect the intellectual powerhouse refilling their water glasses. Her diplomas sit hidden in her bedroom closet, next to language textbooks she still studies religiously. Every customer interaction becomes practice, every shift a masterclass in human connection. 3 days later, Derek arranges an emergency meeting in Morrison's corporate conference room. Regional Director Sarah Lane sits across from Khalil al-Rashid, who has reluctantly returned with 2 business partners. The tension is palpable. Morrison's restaurant group lost a $12 million contract with your consortium 6 months ago, Sarah begins diplomatically. Cultural miscommunications, we were told. Khalil shifts uncomfortably in his leather chair. His partners exchange glances, clearly remembering the viral video that's now reached 500,000 views across social platforms. Perhaps we can discuss moving forward, Khalil says carefully, his earlier arrogance replaced by cautious professionalism. Derek takes a deep breath. I'd like Amara to join our business discussion. The room falls silent. Khalil's face tightens, but he can't object without appearing even more foolish than he already does online. When Amara enters wearing a borrowed business suit, the dynamic shifts immediately. She's no longer the waitress they can dismiss. She's a professional with something to prove. Gentlemen, she begins in perfect Arabic, addressing Khalil's partners directly. I understand there were concerns about cultural sensitivity in the previous contract negotiations. Khalil's business partner, Ahmad, leans forward with surprise. You speak Arabic beautifully. Where did you study? Self-taught, starting with community classes in Chicago, Amara replies smoothly. I've been studying Middle Eastern business culture for my doctoral research. Khalil tests her with deliberately complex business terminology, trying to catch her off guard. What about the concept of wasta in our business relationships? Without hesitation, Amara explains not just the translation, but the cultural context, how relationship building and personal connections drive Middle Eastern business decisions. She discusses Islamic banking principles, explains why certain meeting times conflict with prayer schedules, and demonstrates understanding of hierarchical respect protocols. Ahmad turns to Khalil with barely concealed amazement. Why didn't our previous consultants understand any of this? Amara seizes the opportunity. Most consulting firms understand business or culture, rarely both. They certainly don't understand how American corporate culture can accidentally signal disrespect to international partners. She pulls out her tablet, showing a presentation she'd prepared overnight. For instance, your previous meeting location, a restaurant serving alcohol prominently, immediately created discomfort for observant Muslim partners. The seating arrangement ignored traditional hierarchy, and the rushed timeline disregarded relationship-building practices essential to trust. Sarah Lane watches in fascination as Amara identifies every mistake from their failed negotiation. Problems that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars solved with simple cultural awareness. The solution isn't just translation, Amara continues. It's a cultural translation. Understanding not just what people say, but what they mean within their cultural framework. Khalil's second partner, Farid, addresses her directly in Arabic. What would you recommend for restructuring our partnership approach? For the next hour, Amara facilitates a conversation that previous expensive consultants couldn't achieve in months. She explains American business motivations to the Arab partners and Middle Eastern relationship expectations to the Morrison's team. When she places her hand over her heart while speaking, a traditional gesture of sincerity, Ahmad visibly relaxes. By meeting's end of the meeting, handshakes are exchanged, phone numbers traded, a preliminary agreement to restart negotiations within the month. After Khalil's group leaves, Sarah Lane turns to Derek with undisguised admiration. In 15 years of corporate consulting, I've never seen cultural barriers dissolved that effectively. Derek grins. Should we discuss Amara's promotion? Outside, social media explodes again. Someone live-stream portions of the meeting. #cultural genius starts trending nationally. But the real victory isn't online recognition. It's watching Amara realize her gifts finally have a stage worthy of her talent. The boardroom erupts the moment Amara leaves. "We cannot put a waitress in charge of million-dollar international deals." VP of Operations Jim Bradley slams his hand on the mahogany table. "This is insanity." Sarah Lane maintains her composure, but Derek can see other executives nodding in agreement. The viral video success means nothing to them, only liability and risk. "Is she really qualified for this level of responsibility?" asks CFO Margaret Torres, scrolling through her tablet. "Her resume shows 8 months of food service. That's it." "Where did she even come from?" Bradley continues. "We can't just promote people because of diversity quotas or social media attention." The whispered conversations follow Amara through Morrison's corporate offices over the next week. Colleagues who once treated her as invisible now watch her every move with suspicious eyes. "She's probably exaggerating her language skills," someone mutters near the coffee machine as Amara passes. Google Translate makes anyone look smart these days. In the break room, conversations stop when she enters. Emails chains circulate, questioning her credentials. An anonymous corporate blog post appears overnight titled, "Affirmative Action Gone Too Far, When Restaurants Become Social Experiments." The emotional toll cuts deeper than any insult. Amara finds herself second-guessing every word, every decision. Maybe they're right. Maybe she doesn't belong in these boardrooms and strategy sessions. But then Derek receives an unexpected phone call. "I need to tell you something," Khalil says quietly, his voice lacking its usual commanding tone. "About the other day. About how I treated your employee." Derek listens as Khalil explains what he's never told anyone in Chicago's business community, that 15 years ago he was washing dishes in a Lebanese restaurant, sending money home to support his family, dreaming of someday owning his own business. "I saw myself in her," Khalil admits, "a young person with more intelligence than opportunity. And it terrified me, because if she could rise above her circumstances, what excuse did I have for my behavior?" When Derek shares this revelation with Sarah Lane, they realize they're witnessing something larger than a simple promotion dispute. They're watching systemic bias play out in real time. Meanwhile, the social media backlash intensifies. Online trolls question Amara's authenticity. Comments flood in, calling her an affirmative action hire and demanding proof of her abilities. But something unexpected happens. The international community rallies. Videos pour in from Arabic speakers, linguists, and cultural experts defending her skills. #Stand with Amara begins trending globally. Sarah Lane calls an emergency board meeting. "We have 2 choices," she announces to the room full of skeptical executives. "We can continue doing business the way we always have, hiring expensive consultants who deliver mediocre results, or we can recognize exceptional talent regardless of where we found it." The room buzzes with uncomfortable energy. These are people who built careers on credentials and connections, not raw ability. "Give her 60 days, Sarah continues. "Judge her by results, not assumptions. If she fails, I'll take full responsibility," Derek adds quietly. "And if she succeeds, we'll have revolutionized how this company approaches international business." Jim Bradley leans back in his chair, clearly frustrated. "This sets a dangerous precedent. What's next? Promoting the janitor to head of security because he watches the building carefully? If the janitor has skills we need and we've been too blind to see them," Sarah replies firmly, "then yes, that's exactly what we should do. The vote isn't unanimous, but it passes. Amara will get her chance." Outside the boardroom, Derek's phone buzzes with a text from Amara. Ready to prove them wrong, all of them. 2 weeks later, Amara faces her first real test. A Korean restaurant chain wants to expand into the Middle East. Exactly the type of complex cultural negotiation that has cost Morrison's millions in failed deals. The morning of the meeting, Amara's grandmother calls with unexpected encouragement. "This reminds me of my UN days," she says casually. "Dealing with stubborn diplomats who thought they knew everything about cultural protocol." Amara pauses, phone in hand. "What are your days?" "Oh, Cherie, that was a long time ago." Her grandmother deflects quickly. You'll do wonderfully today. Trust your instincts. The meeting begins with introductions in Morrison's main conference room. CEO Park Min-jun leads the Korean delegation, while Ahmad represents the Middle Eastern Investment Group. Both sides eye each other warily across the polished table. Then Amara surprises everyone by greeting the Korean team in fluent Korean, a language she'd taught herself during graduate school through K-dramas and language exchange programs. "We're honored by your interest in Middle Eastern markets," she tells them in Korean, then seamlessly switches to Arabic for Ahmad's group. "And we understand the cultural sensitivities required for successful expansion." The live stream of the meeting, now standard for Morrison's international negotiations, shows 500,000 viewers watching in real time as Amara facilitates triple translation, Korean to English to Arabic and back again. But then she spots the cultural landmine that could destroy everything. "Mr. Park," she says carefully in Korean, "I noticed your proposed menu includes several pork-based dishes. In Islamic dietary law, pork is forbidden. This could immediately alienate your target market." Park's face goes white. Their previous consultants had missed this entirely. Months of market research wasted because no one understood halal requirements. "What do you suggest?" Ahmad asks, genuinely curious rather than offended. Amara transforms the potential crisis into opportunity. Korean cuisine has incredible vegetarian and seafood traditions. Bulgogi can be made with lamb. Kimchi is naturally halal. You're not losing authenticity, you're adapting thoughtfully. She facilitates a cultural exchange session that turns into something magical. The Korean team learns about Islamic business practices and dietary laws. Ahmad's group discovers Korean concepts of respect and hierarchy that mirror their own cultural values. When Amara arranges for the hotel kitchen to prepare fusion dishes demonstrating halal Korean cuisine, both sides taste possibilities they never imagined. "This is remarkable," Ahmad tells the room in Arabic, then switches to English for the Korean team. "You've created a bridge between our worlds." The deal closes in 3 hours, half the time anyone expected. Both sides feel respected, understood, and excited about partnership. As news of the $2.3 million contract spreads, Derek's phone explodes with requests. Other companies want Morrison's cultural consultant. The #cultural fusion hashtag trends worldwide. That evening, Khalil calls Derek personally. "I owe you an apology," he says. "And I owe her more than that. She didn't just speak my language, she helped me understand that true leadership means recognizing greatness wherever it appears." Amara buys her first business suit that weekend, using money from her new Director of International Relations salary. In her apartment, she frames her first business card next to her PhD diploma, symbols of dreams finally aligning with reality. The promotion announcement live stream reaches 2 million viewers globally. Comments pour in from multilingual professionals sharing their own stories of hidden talents and overlooked abilities. But the real victory isn't the viral success or the salary increase. It's watching Amara realize she's not just translating languages, she's building bridges between worlds that desperately need connection. Her colleagues who initially resisted now seek her expertise. People stand when she enters meetings. Her opinion becomes valued, sought after, essential. The company-wide meeting fills Morrison's largest conference room to capacity. Regional Director Sarah Lane stands at the podium, with the live stream counter showing 1.2 million viewers across business networks worldwide. "In 15 years of corporate consulting," Sarah begins, her voice carrying the weight of absolute conviction, "I have never seen someone create this kind of transformational impact in just 90 days. She clicks on Amara's impact presentation. The numbers tell an impossible story. $8.2 million in new international contracts, 40% improvement in cross-cultural satisfaction scores, 3 new market expansions approved, over 50 million positive social media impressions. CEO Margaret Foster takes the microphone next. At 62, she's seen every business trend come and go. Her endorsement carries gravitas that money can't buy. "Amara Williams has shown us what we've been missing," Margaret announces to the global audience. "Not just linguistic ability, but cultural intelligence that transforms how we do business internationally." The symbolic moment arrives when Margaret extends a formal invitation. "Amara, please join our executive leadership team as Director of Global Cultural Strategy." The live stream chat explodes with congratulations and job offers from Fortune 500 companies. Harvard Business School announces they're creating a case study. The Chicago Business Journal runs a cover story, From Server to Savior, How One Woman Revolutionized International Business. But the most meaningful recognition comes from an unexpected source. Derek receives a call that afternoon from Khalil al-Rashid, speaking with newfound humility. "I have a confession," Khalil says quietly, "something I've never told Chicago's business community." He explains his past, 5 years washing dishes in a Lebanese restaurant, sending money home, learning English from customers who barely noticed him. Building his empire from nothing, always terrified someone would discover his humble beginnings. "When I saw Amara," Khalil continues, his voice thick with emotion, "I saw my younger self, someone with more talent than opportunity. And instead of celebrating that, I tried to diminish it because it reminded me of my own insecurities." The revelation transforms their understanding of that first confrontation. Khalil's cruelty wasn't just prejudice, it was projection, fear, a successful man terrified of being reminded where he came from. "I want to make this right," Khalil tells Derek, publicly. At the International Business Consortium meeting 2 days later, Khalil addresses a room of 300 executives with Amara present. "I learned more about leadership from Amara's response to my ignorance than from years of business school," he announces. "She taught me that true strength means recognizing greatness wherever it appears, especially when it makes us uncomfortable." He requests Amara specifically for his next venture, a $15 million Middle Eastern expansion project. His gesture sends ripples through Chicago's business community. Meanwhile, Northwestern University calls with an offer that makes Amara's eyes well with tears, an adjunct professorship in applied business linguistics, teaching while maintaining her corporate role. The perfect fusion of academic dreams and real-world impact. The ripple effects accelerate. Other Morrison's locations request cultural consultants. Amara creates training programs for staff worldwide. The company implements a cultural sensitivity initiative that becomes an industry standard. But perhaps the most powerful endorsement comes from Ahmad, Khalil's business partner, who tells the consortium, "She doesn't just translate words, she translates hearts. That's the future of international business." That weekend, Amara's grandmother arrives at her new corporate office carrying an old diplomatic briefcase, worn leather with brass corners that have seen decades of international meetings. "It's time you knew the truth, Cherie," her grandmother says, setting the briefcase on Amara's desk with ceremonial care. The photographs spill out like secrets finally freed. A younger version of her grandmother shaking hands with UN Secretary Generals, standing beside world leaders, wearing diplomatic credentials from Haiti's cultural mission. "I was Haiti's UN cultural ambassador for 15 years, her grandmother reveals, her voice carrying the weight of hidden history. "Diplomatic language work runs in our blood." Amara stares at the images, pieces of her childhood suddenly clicking into place. The mysterious formal letters, the casual mentions of international protocols, the way her grandmother always seemed to understand cultural nuances that others missed. "Why did you hide this?" Amara asks, tears threatening. "Political dangers, baby. I wanted to protect our family from old enemies. But watching you these past weeks..." She touches Amara's face gently. "I see my younger self in you, except you're braver than I ever was." Her grandmother opens the briefcase's inner compartment, revealing a diplomatic pen set, sterling silver with UN insignia. "These belong to my mentor. Now they belong to you." The emotional moment is interrupted by a knock. Layla Hassan, a 19-year-old Arab-American server, peers nervously through the door. "Miss Williams, I'm sorry to bother you, but could I ask you something?" Layla explains her struggle with confidence, facing the same dismissive looks and cultural assumptions Amara once endured. "They treat me like I'm invisible, like I don't understand anything beyond taking orders." Amara sees herself in Layla's uncertainty, the same brilliant mind trapped behind others' limited expectations. "Intelligence and worth aren't defined by job titles," Amara tells her, pulling out a business Arabic textbook. "This is yours now. Start with Chapter 3, Business Communication Basics." That evening, Amara organizes an impromptu cultural night at the restaurant. Word spreads through social media, and families from 12 different backgrounds arrive to share food, stories, and languages. An elderly Lebanese grandfather, dining with 3 generations of his family, approaches Amara with tears in his eyes. "You speak like my daughter would have," he says in Arabic, holding her hands. "She passed last year, hearing our dialect so beautifully. It brings her back to me." The moment accidentally streams live when someone forgets to turn off their phone. The video, an intimate connection between cultures bridged by language, reaches 3 million views overnight. As Amara locks up that night, she realizes her gift was never really about languages. It was about seeing the humanity in everyone, regardless of how society had labeled them. The International Business Summit transformed Chicago's downtown into a diplomatic battlefield. 12 countries, 200-plus executives, and billions in trade agreements hang in the balance. Morrison's restaurant group has been selected to cater and facilitate, their reputation now tied to Amara's success. The stakes couldn't be higher. Previous summits failed spectacularly due to cultural misunderstandings. This time, with 10 million viewers watching the live stream globally, failure means international humiliation. Amara stands in the main ballroom at 6 a.m., reviewing seating charts with her grandmother beside her, officially listed as Cultural Protocol Advisor. The diplomatic briefcase sits open on the registration table, its contents now part of Amara's professional arsenal. "Remember, Cherie," her grandmother whispers, "every conflict is just miscommunication waiting to be solved." Day 1 nearly implodes before lunch. The Japanese delegation, led by CEO Tanaka, sits rigidly at their assigned table, clearly offended. Amara recognizes the problem immediately. Traditional hierarchy protocols have been violated. The seating arrangement places junior executives higher than senior ones, a grave insult in Japanese business culture. "Mr. Tanaka," Amara approaches in fluent Japanese, "please accept our sincere apologies. The seating error was unintentional disrespect." Within 20 minutes, she rearranges the entire ballroom. The Japanese executives visibly relax as proper hierarchy is restored. Crisis averted, but the live stream chat explodes with comments about the near disaster. Day 2 brings worse problems. German automotive executives and Brazilian manufacturing partners reach a complete deadlock. Both sides use technical jargon that creates false barriers. They're actually agreeing, but using different business terminology. "Gentlemen," Amara interrupts the heated exchange, switching between German and Portuguese, "you're both describing the same quality standards with different frameworks. Let me show you." She facilitates a live translation session that reveals their common ground. The Brazilian team's flexible adaptation means exactly what the Germans call systematic optimization. Within an hour, they're shaking hands over contract terms, but the real test comes on day 3. Marcus Wellington, a consultant hired by Morrison's competitor, stands to address the full assembly. His goal is clear: destroy Amara's credibility in front of the global audience. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus announces with condescending authority, "we're trusting international relations worth hundreds of millions to someone whose primary qualification 6 months ago was refilling water glasses." The attack lands like a physical blow. Murmurs ripple through the assembly. The livestream chat turns toxic with comments questioning Amara's legitimacy. "Are we really comfortable," Marcus continues, "building business relationships through someone who learned languages from YouTube videos and cultural centers?" The room falls silent. This is the moment every executive fears: public humiliation that destroys careers instantly. But Amara doesn't defend herself with words. Instead, she demonstrates her value. Walking to the center of the ballroom, she addresses each delegation in their native language, speaking to their specific cultural business values with precision that takes years to develop. To the Arabic speakers, true business success comes from building relationships based on honor and mutual respect, not just profit margins. To the Japanese delegation, long-term thinking and meticulous attention to detail create partnerships that transcend generations. To the Germans, precision and efficiency aren't just business practices, they're expressions of respect for everyone's time and resources. To the Brazilians, warmth and personal connection make contracts more than legal documents. They make them family bonds. Each statement lands perfectly within a cultural context. The live stream audience watches 15 million people witness mastery in real time. Then the crisis that could end everything erupts. Historical tensions between the Middle Eastern and European delegations explode into open conflict. Religious differences, economic competition, and political mistrust create a perfect storm of miscommunication. This is exactly why East-West partnerships fail, the German representative declares in frustration. Perhaps if European businesses understood basic respect protocols, Ahmad responded sharply in Arabic. Delegates start gathering their materials to leave. Hundreds of millions in potential partnerships dissolve before Amara's eyes. The global audience watches democracy and capitalism seemingly fail in real time. Khalil suddenly stands, addressing the entire assembly. 15 years ago, I was washing dishes in a Lebanese restaurant, he announces, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. I learned English from customers who barely noticed I existed. I built my business from nothing, always terrified someone would discover my humble beginnings. The confession shocks everyone, including his own business partners. When I first met Amara, Khalil continues, I saw my younger self, someone with more intelligence than opportunity, and instead of celebrating that, I tried to diminish it because it reminded me of my own insecurities. He turns directly to Amara. This woman taught me more about leadership than any business school. She showed me that true strength means recognizing greatness wherever it appears, especially when it makes us uncomfortable. The emotional moment breaks down barriers, but the fundamental conflict remains. Amara steps forward using her grandmother's diplomatic training. Every person in this room, she begins quietly, has felt misunderstood, has had their worth questioned, has been dismissed because of someone else's assumptions. She shares her personal story, the brilliant mind hidden behind a server's uniform, the PhD graduate paying off loans by waiting tables, the linguistic genius invisible to those who never bothered to look. We're not here to conduct business transactions, she continues, voice growing stronger. We're here to build bridges between worlds that desperately need each other. She facilitates a revolutionary approach. Each delegation shares their cultural values, their fears, their hopes for partnership. The business summit becomes a human connection session. The breakthrough comes when Amara proposes contract structures that honor every culture's approach. German precision, Japanese hierarchy, Middle Eastern relationship building, Brazilian warmth, American innovation. The signing ceremony incorporates traditions from all cultures. When delegates vote, the suspense builds across global live streams. One by one, each country signs. The ballroom erupts in standing ovation. 200-plus international executives recognize they've witnessed something unprecedented, cultural diplomacy solving problems that politics couldn't touch. The live stream reaches 20 million concurrent viewers. #cultural diplomacy trends worldwide with 100 million interactions. But for Amara, watching Khalil approach with tears in his eyes, the real victory is seeing how far they've all traveled from that first moment of cruelty to this moment of redemption. The viral explosion begins within hours. Summit clips reach 100 million views across platforms overnight. #Hidden Talents becomes more than a hashtag. It transforms into a global movement as people worldwide share stories of overlooked potential and dismissed dreams. 3 weeks later, the Chicago International Business Council hosts a ceremony that fills the Palmer House ballroom to capacity. 5 million viewers tune into the live stream as Amara receives the Cultural Bridge Builder of the Year award, the same hotel where, ironically, she once faced discrimination at a business dinner. 6 months ago, Amara begins her acceptance speech. Many of you wouldn't have noticed me in a room. Today you're listening to me lead one. Her grandmother sits in the front row, diplomatic medals proudly displayed on her chest for the first time in decades. The sight of 3 generations of diplomatic women, past, present, and future, moves the audience to sustained applause. The recognition cascade proves unstoppable. CNN International features her story. Forbes names her to their 30 under 30 inches list. Harvard Business Review publishes her research on cultural intelligence. The World Economic Forum extends a speaking invitation, but the systemic changes matter more than personal accolades. Morrison's Restaurant Group becomes the gold standard for inclusive hiring practices. The company's new policy requires cultural competency training for all managers. International revenue increases 300% within 6 months. Other restaurant chains scramble to replicate their success. The Hidden Talents Initiative Scholarship Fund reaches global scale, supporting multilingual education in 30 countries. Amara's mentorship program helps 5,000 service workers transition to professional roles worldwide. Khalil's transformation becomes equally remarkable. He establishes a Second Chances program for immigrant entrepreneurs, publicly sharing his dishwasher story at business schools. His company adopts Morrison's inclusive hiring model, becoming the first Middle Eastern corporation to implement systematic bias training. "I spent years trying to forget where I came from," Khalil tells a Stanford Business School audience via live stream. "Amara taught me that our origins are our strength, not our shame." The personal moment Amara treasures most happens on a quiet Tuesday evening. She returns to the original restaurant, now renamed the Cultural Bridge Cafe, and requests table 12, the same table where everything began. The young server approaches nervously. It's Layla, now promoted to assistant manager, wearing a name tag that reads Layla Hassan, Cultural Liaison Trainee. "Miss Williams," Layla says in perfect Arabic, then switches to English, "your usual table is ready." They sit together, mentor and mentee, at the table that once witnessed humiliation but now symbolizes transformation. Amara's original name tag, Server #7, sits framed on the wall beside her Harvard Business Review cover story. The media attention reaches international proportions. BBC produces a documentary, Netflix acquires rights to her story, publishers compete for her memoir deal, TED Talks extends multiple speaking invitations. But perhaps the most powerful symbol comes when the Smithsonian requests her original name tag for their American Innovation exhibit. Server #7 will represent how hidden potential, once recognized, can change entire industries. The ripple effects continue expanding. The UN invites Amara as a cultural consultant for international trade negotiations. The State Department adds cultural intelligence to diplomatic training curricula. Business schools worldwide make her case study mandatory reading. Chicago's mayor declares an annual Hidden Talents Day, encouraging employers to look beyond job titles when identifying potential. The initiative spreads to other cities, then entire states. The International Cultural Center opens in downtown Chicago with Amara's name on the dedication plaque. The building becomes a gathering place for cultural exchange, language learning, and cross-cultural business training. On opening night, her grandmother cuts the ribbon using diplomatic ceremony protocols. "My granddaughter continues the work I started," she announces proudly, "but she's building bridges I never imagined possible." The symbolic objects tell the complete story. Her grandmother's diplomatic pen set sits on Amara's desk, used to sign international contracts. The original Server #7 name tag hangs beside her PhD diploma and business cards printed in 7 languages. Each represents a different chapter of the same journey, from invisible to indispensable. The global business community takes notice. Fortune 500 companies implement Amara protocols, systematic approaches to identifying hidden talent in unexpected places. The methodology becomes standard practice for inclusive hiring. Her Northwestern professorship becomes a joint appointment with the business school. Students from around the world enroll in her Cultural Intelligence in Global Business course. The waiting list stretches to 500 names. But the moment that brings Amara to tears happens during a quiet family dinner. Her grandmother opens an old photo album, pointing to a picture of herself at the UN decades earlier. "I always dreamed someone would continue this work," her grandmother says softly. "I just never imagined it would be so much more beautiful than anything I accomplished." The economic impact reaches staggering proportions. Companies using Amara's cultural intelligence methods report billion-dollar increases in international revenue. The hidden talents approach to hiring creates an estimated 50,000 new professional opportunities for service workers globally. The transformation of American business culture becomes undeniable. Cultural competency evolves from nice to have to absolutely essential. International partnerships thrive when built on genuine understanding rather than surface-level politeness. Late one evening, Amara stands in her office looking at the city lights below. Her reflection in the window shows a woman who has traveled impossibly far from that humiliating moment 6 months ago. On her desk, Khalil's latest text message glows. Thank you for showing me that greatness isn't about where you start. It's about how you choose to lift others along the way. The full circle closes when Morrison's announces their next initiative, a global training program teaching the Amara method of cultural business intelligence. Companies in 40 countries sign up immediately. But perhaps the most meaningful recognition comes in an email from a young server in Mumbai. I watched your story and decided to share my engineering degree with my manager. Today, I got promoted to technical consulting. Thank you for showing us that being underestimated isn't our limitation. It's their loss. 1 year later, Amara walks through the Cultural Bridge Cafe with her grandmother, both women carrying themselves with the quiet dignity of those who have changed the world. The restaurant buzzes with conversations in dozens of languages, a living testament to what happens when barriers fall. Look around, chérie, her grandmother says, gesturing to the diverse crowd of business leaders, students, and families sharing tables. This is what real success looks like, not money or fame, but human connection. The transformation extends far beyond one restaurant. The Hidden Talents Initiative has reached 50 countries, creating pathways for 50,000 people to move from service roles to professional careers. Cultural competency is now standard curriculum in business schools worldwide. International revenue attributed to inclusive practices exceeds $1 billion annually. But the deepest change is philosophical. Companies actively seek diverse linguistic skills. Managers look beyond job titles when identifying talent. The question, what hidden abilities might this person have, becomes standard in hiring discussions. Amara's monthly mentorship meetings now happen virtually, connecting young multilingual workers across continents. Success stories pour in daily. A Somali taxi driver becomes a logistics coordinator. A Vietnamese restaurant worker transitions to international supply chain management. A Mexican hotel housekeeper discovers her facility management genius. The personal growth completes her transformation. Amara no longer needs external validation to know her worth. The frightened server who once hid her PhD has become a confident leader who elevates others without diminishing herself. The relationship healing with Khalil represents perhaps the most profound change. Their friendship, built on mutual respect and shared understanding of hidden struggles, challenges every assumption about redemption and forgiveness. Standing before the live stream camera for her monthly Cultural Connection broadcast, Amara addresses her global audience with the same directness that first captured the world's attention. How many Amaras work in your office? She asks the 10 million viewers watching across 6 continents. Serve your coffee, clean your buildings, drive your transportation. What hidden talents are you overlooking every single day? The questions land with intended impact. Comments flood in from CEOs, managers, and business owners sharing discoveries of unexpected expertise in their own organizations. The next time someone serves you, Amara continues, remember, you might be looking at a genius in disguise. Your job isn't just to receive their service, it's to see their potential. She outlines practical steps. Notice the invisible people in daily interactions. Look beyond job titles when identifying talent. Support policies that create pathways for advancement. Fund the Hidden Talents Scholarship Program at hiddentalentsinitiative.org. But most importantly, she emphasizes, remember that every interaction is an opportunity to recognize greatness. The final callback brings everything full circle. Her original name tag now sits in the Smithsonian, representing transformation through recognition. Next to it, a placard reads, From Server #7 to the Global Cultural Ambassador. When we see people fully, we change the world. Amara looks directly into the camera, her voice carrying the weight of conviction built through struggle and triumph. I'm asking you to do 3 things right now. First, think about someone in your life who's been underestimated. Text them. Tell them you see their potential. Do it now. Don't wait. She pauses, letting the weight of the request settle. Second, if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Tag a business owner, a manager, someone with hiring power. Use the words, see the potential. Let's make this message impossible to ignore. The final request carries generational significance. Third, support the Hidden Talents Initiative. Visit the link in the description. Whether it's $5 or $5,000, you're not just donating. You're investing in the next Amara who's currently invisible, waiting for someone to believe in their brilliance. The closing line becomes a rallying cry. Potential doesn't speak louder than prejudice until someone chooses to listen. Asterisk. Like if this story inspired you to look closer at the people around you, asterisk. Comment with a time when someone underestimated you. Let's fill this space with triumph stories, asterisk, share, and tag someone who sees hidden potential in others, asterisk. Subscribe for more stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things when someone finally notices their gifts. The lingering resonance echoes long after the video ends. What if the person who could change your business is already working for you? And in living rooms, offices, and coffee shops around the world, millions of people pause to truly see the servers, clerks, and cleaners for the first time, wondering what genius they've been overlooking.